Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day, there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today we're really going to be talking about success and finances and how to do some things that, we're going to help you along that journey. We've had other folks talk about this subject, but I'll be honest, it just confuses me. So I am so grateful to have our guest here today to hopefully clear up some of that confusion. So please join me in welcoming Brian Truman to our program today. Welcome, Brian. How are you doing?
Marvelous. Thank you.
Great.
And I appreciate you having me on. Look forward to this.
Perfect. Well, let me tell folks just a little bit about you. So Brian Truman has carved out a formidable niche in multifamily and investment sales, as well as business brokerage. As an advisor with SVN Accel, his dedication to helping clients achieve generational wealth is not just a passion, it's a mission. Leveraging his deep understanding of business and building over mindsets, Brian consistently delivers results that align with his clients' long-term financial goals. With an impressive 24-year track record in consultative sales and change management, Brian brings a wealth of experience to the table. He has negotiated numerous high-stakes deals in both the public and private sectors, often working with C-level executives and business owners on transactions worth hundreds of millions of dollars. His tenure in the public sector, serving as a city councilman and board of zoning and appeals member, further underscores his commitment to community service and strategic development. Brian has been in the business brokerage world since 2011, helping individuals and companies buy and sell. Well, again, Brian, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Well, you're just up the road from me in Tennessee, and we're going to be talking a little bit about Tennessee specifically, but tell us a little bit more about how it is that you got to where you are today.
All right. Yeah, it's been a journey, but an enjoyable journey. So, kind of going off the bio that you read, I spent 23 years in basically government contracting work.
Okay.
And traveled all 50 states, traveled way more than I would like to admit. Um, you know, uh, 2 to 3 weeks out of every month for a
Wow.
lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, so got to see a lot of places across
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
country, all of that. Once I kind of decided, kind of done with
Mm-hmm.
the traveling and that career, and said, okay, if once this is done here, what do I want to do next? So then I after corporate America, then I started a business brokerage company here in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was 2011 and grew it to be the largest one by
Wow.
2016.
Okay.
So any given month, we had 140 listings, business listings that we were selling. And I had, had 9 other agents with me.
Mm-hmm.
So we were helping people, buy and sell. I like to say we were the eHarmony of business
Oh, I
brokerage.
love it. Mm-hmm.
So we were
You
making
made
that connection.
matches. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
making that connection. And so then by 2016, then I had a company approach me and say, "Hey, would like to buy your book
Mm-hmm.
of business." And so I gave them the same answer I would give owners when I would approach them to say, "Hey, I've somebody wants to buy your business,"
Mm-hmm.
and they would always tell me, "No, my business is not for sale."
Mm-hmm.
And I'd always tell them that's the wrong answer.
Right.
The right answer is your business should always be for sale for the right price.
Okay.
So that's what I told this company.
Hmm.
I said, well, my business is always for sale for the right price.
Right. Tell me more.
Yeah, so about 6, 7 months later, they got to that right price,
Ooh.
and we came to an
Hmm.
agreement. And I signed ownership over to that, and
Hmm.
signed a 3-year non-compete.
Hmm.
And then I was like, okay, what do I do next?
Right. Hmm.
So, and uh, then so my wife was a commercial real estate
Hmm.
broker. And so she convinced me, she's like, well, why don't you just get a license and come and hang out with me
Hmm.
a little bit and
Hmm.
see if you might like it.
Hmm.
And that was 2016, end of
Okay.
2016, and
Hmm.
decided I liked it and been doing that ever since.
Hmm.
And then when the 3-year non-compete was up on the business brokerage, we
Hmm.
started that back up again
Okay.
as well. So we have our real estate company,
Hmm.
we have a commercial property management company,
Hmm.
and then we have our business brokerage.
Hmm.
And a lot of people are like, okay, so how do those necessarily relate? But
Right.
they do relate
Hmm.
because probably 30% of the businesses we sell have real estate attached to it.
Okay.
Right. And so there's a real estate component.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then right now, especially, uh, you have a lot of what they call the silver tsunami coming up, and has started where,
Yeah. Us little
yep,
aging baby boomers,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
well, I'm in that category, but
Hmm.
but you have a lot of these mom and dads who started these businesses
Hmm.
with the intent that one of their kids were going to take it
Hmm.
over and run it. But really, ever since COVID, it's like now their kids aren't interested. It's
Right.
too much work.
Hmm.
It's too hard, whatever. And so a lot of these, mom and pops are like, yeah, we want to sell our business, but
Hmm.
then what do we do with, per se, with the
Hmm.
money? And
Hmm.
so we're helping a lot of them take that money from the
Okay.
sell of their business and buying real estate with
Hmm.
it. Because
Right.
I
Hmm.
tell them, I'm like, well, I guarantee you your kids would be happy to have your real estate.
This is true. They might not want the business, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
hmm.
yeah. So anyway, that's how,
Hmm.
that's how I kind of got into
Hmm.
into the whole real
Hmm.
estate and doing what I
Hmm.
do now. You brought up that I have a concentration in multifamily,
Hmm.
and a lot of people ask me that question too, as far as, okay, yeah, we know you do real estate, but
Hmm.
how did you get into the multifamily?
Right. Hmm.
Into helping people buy and
Hmm.
sell apartment buildings,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and which is a very unique story in itself,
Hmm.
in that it was 2016, so I just barely got my license. I'd had my license all of like 2 months.
Hmm.
And it was the Saturday before Christmas. My wife and I are going out to dinner, and my phone rings. This is like 6:30 at night.
Hmm.
And it came across, didn't have a name to it, but the area code was 310. And I knew from all my days of being in corporate America and
Hmm.
traveling, I knew that that was, LA, Los Angeles,
Ah.
California
Hmm.
area. And normally that late at night and on Friday, I usually didn't take those
Right. Right.
calls.
You're
And
like, yeah, they can leave a
yeah,
message.
yeah, they
Hmm.
can wait. But for some reason, or if it's important enough, they'll leave a
Hmm.
message. But for some reason, I went ahead and answered.
Hmm.
And as a gentleman, he said, hey, he's like, hey, Brian, you don't know me. I got your name from a residential agent who said that you might be able to help me
Hmm.
because I'm in a real pickle, right now. And I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, so I'm like, what's the real pickle you're
Hmm.
in? So tell me. And he was like, well, I've sold some property in California,
Hmm.
but I only have until midnight tonight to identify my three properties for my 1031 exchange,
Ah.
or I'm going to
Well,
have
he
this
was in
big,
a pickle.
yeah, or I'm going to have this big tax bill, right?
Hmm.
And
Right. Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, and you're calling me 6:30 at
Yeah.
night.
Now,
You
granted,
haven't
it was
you haven't until midnight
4:30 for
tonight?
him, but
Yeah.
hmm.
And so I said, you know what? Give me like 30 minutes.
Hmm.
I'll call you back. And
Hmm.
so I had remembered that there's a young man that I went through real estate school with who said his stepfather had five multifamily
Hmm.
properties.
Hmm.
And we had talked a little bit about that because
Hmm.
during real estate school, I told him I was going to go into commercial
Hmm.
instead of residential.
Hmm.
So he said to me, so I told this gentleman, give me 30 minutes. So I called
Hmm.
this young man
Hmm.
and I said, hey, I remember you saying your stepfather had five properties. Would
Hmm.
he be interested in selling one or two or
Right.
three or any of
You
them?
you've got somebody who,
Yeah. And so
hmm.
he was like, well, give me 15 minutes. Let me
Hmm.
call him.
Hmm.
So by that time, we were at dinner, we were sitting at our table,
Hmm.
ordering food, and he calls me back and he said, yeah, I just talked to my stepfather. He's got
Hmm.
three of them. I
Ah.
said, I was like, well, can you do me a favor?
Hmm.
Can you text me the name of the property and the
Hmm.
address? And so he did that
Hmm.
immediately. And then I called this gentleman
Hmm.
back in California and said, well, it's your lucky day. I'm texting you right
Hmm.
now, three properties,
Hmm.
the addresses, everything. You
Hmm.
can call and give these to your
Hmm.
1031
Hmm.
intermediary. And so, so I did that. But what the story gets really interesting is when this gentleman, this is already Christmas time, so we put
Hmm.
the properties, we went under contract
Hmm.
on all three of them,
Hmm.
and he said, "Okay, let me come out and I'll do the inspections right
Hmm.
after, the new year."
Right.
And I was like, "Okay." So I said, "All right," got him lined up, and I said, "Hey, I'll even pick you up at the airport."
Hmm.
And he said, "Well, you'll have to come to the private airport
Oh,
because I don't fly commercial."
I have my own jet. Hmm.
Yeah. So I was like, "Okay, so who am I dealing with here?"
Yeah.
So I go to
Hmm.
airport, pick him up, his wife, his kids, the
Hmm.
nanny. There's video
Everybody they can put on the
photography,
plane.
right? They brought out, and so anyway, come to find out, this he was like Grant Cardone's right hand man, right
Ah.
hand person at the time,
Hmm. Hmm.
and so so then I come to find out that this gentleman puts on a conference every
Hmm.
year. And so he had invited us right after that to come out to this
Hmm.
conference.
Hmm. Well,
So
you impressed him with how
yeah,
rapidly you were able to solve his problem.
exactly. And so we went out, we were on the front row. He got up, and so there was Grant and Elena Cardone and a lot of other big names, speakers there, Tim Grover and all these other people.
Hmm.
And he so he gets up right before lunch, he tells his rags to riches story.
Hmm.
And and then was talking about, yeah, that he just now has started investing in Tennessee
Hmm.
on a recommendation from Grant Cardone that he
Hmm.
should, and he goes, oh, by the way, my Tennessee realtor is here. And so he's like, hey, Brian, where are you? Can you stand up? And he was looking out in the crowd, but he knew
Right.
I
And
was
you're
right
like,
there on the front
hello.
row.
Hmm.
Well, he knew where I was, but it was
Hmm.
part of
Hmm.
the so he had me stand up and he was like, yeah, if there's anybody who wants to invest in Tennessee, this
Hmm.
is your guy. And
Hmm.
there's 1,500 people there, right? So
Oi.
so
And you just got one
yeah.
heck of a recommendation.
Yeah, so then when we were going to go to lunch, we're
Hmm.
supposed to go have a private lunch with this gentleman, his wife, and
Hmm.
then Grant Cardone and
Hmm.
his wife.
Wow.
Well, as soon as we broke from lunch, I got mobbed from all sides.
Hmm.
So I just said to my wife, "You go have lunch. I'll answer
Hmm.
a few questions and then
Hmm.
I'll be there."
Hmm.
Well, an hour and a half later, I'm still standing there
Right.
answering questions, and
Hmm.
I've told everybody, I said that's the closest I've ever come to knowing what it'd feel like to probably be famous,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But the story, just kind of end the story is
Hmm.
that because of that experience, I came back from that conference
Hmm.
with hundreds of
Hmm.
investors.
Hmm.
And so, as I've told people, I've never hurt for
Hmm.
having buyers,
Hmm.
because of this
Hmm.
experience,
Hmm.
right? And so, so people have always found that story to kind of be,
Hmm.
fascinating how
Right.
that all happened.
Hmm.
But hey,
And it
I'm
was because you
grateful.
decided to answer the phone on a Friday after evening.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And to this day, Deb, that one of the things that sets me apart is, other here in Nashville and some of the
Hmm.
areas, people that do, some of these
Hmm.
mastermind groups on
Hmm.
multifamily, or they'll do meetups.
Hmm.
They'll invite me to come, and they
Hmm.
will always say, "Yeah, here's Brian. He's the only broker you really want. And by the way, he will answer his phone
Hmm.
no matter when."
Hmm.
And I've had people call me at 9 o'clock at
They
night.
test it.
Yeah, they tested. I
Hmm.
had two people after that announcement. I had two
Hmm.
people the next morning. I'm driving into work. I had them call, and
Hmm.
they're like, "We didn't call for any other reason other than to see if would actually
Right.
answer the
Hmm.
phone."
Hmm.
Right. And so yeah, so now, now it's kind of like I
Hmm.
gotta answer
You
it now,
have to. Yeah. Yeah. I love
but
it. Hmm.
but it, and it's weird that just something that little
Hmm.
is such a big
Right.
differentiator
Hmm.
you know, between brokers,
Hmm.
between me
Hmm.
and other brokers,
Right.
right?
Well, and I think everybody can learn from that.
Yeah,
How many times, and I admit I am guilty of that. I don't know that number, therefore I'm not going to answer. And it's funny, I was listening to the radio today, and they were talking about that because of all the scams and all sorts of things,
yeah,
you shouldn't answer unless you know who it is. And how many times, and of course the thing is, if you don't answer, they might easily not leave a message and just go to the next person on their list.
yeah,
And so yeah, it's and there are times. I mean, you were out to dinner with your wife,
yeah,
right? It would have been very easy for you to have thought no,
yeah.
but yeah, and so how many opportunities have we missed because we just haven't answered the phone?
Yeah, we just had a listing not long ago. The lady from California, I happened to still be at work at,
Hmm.
6:30,
Hmm.
6:30 here, but
Hmm.
4:30
Right.
California.
Hmm.
She called and I picked up, and
Hmm.
she told me I was the fifth
Hmm.
broker she
Hmm.
would called, and I was the only one
Yep.
that picked up.
Hmm.
Went on to get the
Hmm.
listing, and then she let me know that it took 2 weeks for one of those other brokers to finally
Hmm.
call her back.
Right. Right. And I don't understand that
Yeah,
because even if call back or answer and find that it's not worth it,
yeah,
you never know. It's funny. I was in California a year or so ago and lost a gold crown. Right, a little bugger pops off right in my hand. Now, luckily, there was no pain, but
yeah,
I'm thinking I should probably do something about this. We were in a fairly small town up in the wine country, but I called probably 8 to 10 dentists. Didn't get a single person because this is night, and that was fine. I figured, I mean, it's a they're not going to answer. So, but I left messages and I said, I'm here from Atlanta. I'm here for several days. I have this crown that has come off. I need temporary, immediate, you know, first
yeah.
thing in the morning dental. One called me back
Wow.
and he got me in. I mean, and I
Yeah,
popped in but yeah, I mean, how much time would have taken those other ones to, even if they just called and said, we can't help you,
yeah, yeah,
that's not a big deal. But yeah, those missed opportunities, and it would be interesting sometime just to know what have we lost by
yeah,
those missed opportunities. We'd probably all be so depressed that yeah, we wouldn't do it anymore.
yeah,
But yeah, it is. It's pretty simple. Answer that phone, or respond to that email. Whatever it is, take those. And of course the key is, and this comes back from your very first, the first part of your story. You never know who they know,
mhm,
right? And so yes, the gentleman you worked with obviously was a great person, but he was really well connected.
yeah.
So you might think, wow, maybe not, but you never know who they know.
Exactly. And that, so I basically tell, following up, because I loved what you
Mhm.
just said, is I tell my agents,
Mhm.
everybody on our
Mhm.
team, I tell them, I'm like, the way to the many is through the one.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right? And you don't know what one
Mm-hmm.
person you might
Mm-hmm.
meet who can introduce you to a whole
Mm-hmm.
slew of people,
Mm-hmm.
which has happened in this instance
Right.
with
Uh-huh.
this gentleman. He's still a client today, but
Mm-hmm.
he has introduced us to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so many people,
Mm-hmm.
not just the ones that came up,
Mm-hmm.
during that, but
Right.
since then,
Mm-hmm.
over time,
Mm-hmm.
because he's put on this
Mm-hmm.
conference. So we've met a lot of, famous people, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of other,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, but, we've got a lot of clients out
Mm-hmm.
of just that
Mm-hmm.
one person.
Mm-hmm.
So you're exactly
Right.
correct. You never
Mm-hmm.
know
Mm-hmm.
what
Mm-hmm.
one person, and I use another example. It was my wife. She was invited to go on to, kind of a Zoom call,
Mm-hmm.
and there was supposed to be like 25 people or something like that. Ended up being like three people
Oh.
on the
Mm-hmm.
Zoom call, and that
Mm-hmm.
was it, right? And so when she got done,
Mm-hmm.
she was, really disappointed,
Mm-hmm.
and she was
Right.
like, well, that was a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
There's only three
Mm-hmm.
people. And I reminded her, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, you never know
Right. Mm-hmm.
those three people,
Mm-hmm.
who they are,
Mm-hmm.
what may
Mm-hmm.
need.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what have I always
Mm-hmm.
said? You never know,
Mm-hmm. Right.
and so the next day, one of those guys called that was
Mm-hmm.
on there, and he was like, hey, I'm a big time investor
Mm-hmm.
in Knoxville. I want to
Mm-hmm.
start investing in
Mm-hmm.
Nashville now. So she's
Mm-hmm.
helped him probably five or six
Mm-hmm.
times now, right?
Right.
And so
Mm-hmm.
but so she was just
Mm-hmm.
worried that, oh man, there's only
Mm-hmm.
three people on here. What a
Mm-hmm.
waste of my
But one of
time.
those was
Yeah,
worth it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
exactly. And that's,
Right.
so I always tell my
Mm-hmm.
agents, you never
Mm-hmm.
know
Right.
what one
Mm-hmm.
person might
Mm-hmm.
lead you. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't need more money, you
Mm-hmm.
need more people, because the
Mm-hmm.
people are the ones that have the money.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Type thing.
And you also should not say, oh, they're too small.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time consulting with nonprofit organizations.
Yeah.
And I tell them, the person who sends you $10, you need to thank just
Hmm.
like you would the 10,000, because you never know when that they're testing you.
Yep.
Are you even going to acknowledge my donation?
Hmm.
And things like that. And I've seen it happen more than once, where it was somebody who made a small donation, but they were impressed with the follow up. Now, obviously, a big donation gets you something very different than,
Yeah.
but even just the letter,
Yeah.
the whatever it is, then they're like, okay, now I'll, they just wanted to test to
Yeah.
see would they even be acknowledged. And we had that happen one time where somebody donated $100, but we took the time, we followed up with them, thanked them very much, and then they did become a $10,000 donor. And it would have been very easy to say, you know, small potatoes. We don't
Yeah.
want to deal with them.
Yeah.
And so you never know. And I think that's where we sometimes, especially as a business owner, get caught, is
Mhm.
thinking they're
Yep.
too small, they're not big enough, they're not worth our
Right.
time and effort. And turns out they might really be.
Yeah. Exactly. I agree with that. So,
Right. Well, yeah. Oh, this has been fascinating, and so but I want to talk a little bit more about what it is that you do, and you talked about commercial real estate,
yeah.
which has always been going very good, and then we had COVID, you know, and companies were completely going to in-house, or they went bankrupt or shut down, or whatever. And I know commercial mortgage people and commercial investors who just completely got out of the business, during COVID. How was it that you managed to survive and thrive during that time period?
That's a great question. Because, and I think one of the big areas for us, and why we did well during that time is, number one, we work all segments of commercial.
Mm-hmm.
So the way we have our team structured is that every one of our agents have a primary or secondary segment that they work in,
Okay.
right? So somebody may be a specialist in industrial,
Hmm.
somebody may be retail, somebody may
Hmm.
be office, hospitality,
Hmm.
land, multifamily, things like that, right? So because of that, so you had some of the segments, obviously like
Hmm.
office,
Hmm.
retail, which, kind of
Hmm.
during COVID, it was like
Right.
non-existent almost. But then you had other segments that did just fine,
Okay.
right? And then second off is Nat we live in Nashville,
Hmm.
right? Being in, Nashville, you hear them say it's one of the it cities,
Right. Hmm.
right? And so, the economy here, even during COVID,
Hmm.
I think we were out of our office like 3 days and that's it.
Wow.
Then
Wow.
we were
Hmm.
all back,
Hmm.
and so, but Nashville has always been, and there's, it depends on who you hear or listen
Hmm.
to. It's, there's anywhere from 85 to 120 people a
Hmm.
day moving here,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And I get asked the question, and this will help explain why. So during COVID, when you saw, some of the market really
Hmm.
drop and, then some of those markets be down 20, 25,
Hmm.
30% as
Hmm.
far as real estate. And, in Nashville, we were not even close to that.
Hmm.
But one of those reasons is we probably receive a call a week or two calls a week of people, investors going, "Hey, Brian, um, I want to invest in Nashville.
Hmm.
Everybody tells me I should invest in
Hmm.
Nashville. Um, so tell me, why should I invest in
Hmm.
Nashville?" Right? They're really
Right.
trying to.
Hmm.
And so I will just kind of use this, little
Hmm.
analogy per se to them is I'm like, okay, so when you think of Nashville, what industry do you,
Okay, that one's pretty easy, right?
right?
Because I'm a country girl.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
So they're like, oh, music
Hmm. Hmm.
industry and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, so if I told you on the top 10
Hmm.
industries in Nashville, if I told you music entertainment was like number 7, would that
Wow,
shock you?
that would totally shock me. Hmm.
Yeah, and they say
Hmm.
absolutely.
Hmm.
So, and I tell them, if I told you that healthcare is by far our
Hmm.
largest industry, would
Right.
that,
Oh
would that
yeah, yeah.
surprise you?
Hmm.
Right? And they're like, oh
Hmm.
yeah. And so
Hmm.
then I'll run down like the top 10, right?
Hmm.
And then they say, okay, now I
Hmm.
get why I should
Hmm.
invest there. And
Hmm.
it's because of the diversity of
Hmm.
industries, right?
Hmm.
So Nashville is not built off of just
Hmm.
one or two industries like a
Hmm.
lot of bigger cities are.
Hmm. Right.
Maybe they have a couple of big, strong, industries and that's
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
For Nashville, it's
Hmm.
not that way. So
Right.
because there's that diversity of
Hmm.
industries, that has always made and
Hmm.
driven companies
Hmm.
here, people here. So we didn't suffer near as much as,
Hmm.
as other areas around the
Hmm.
country did. And then the fact that we work in all the segments,
Hmm.
then we came through COVID just fine. And
Hmm.
even we gained market share
Hmm.
during COVID,
Hmm.
believe it or not, because there are a lot of our commercial competitors were like, oh, nobody's going to be buying, so we're gonna work on our website or we're
Hmm.
gonna do
Hmm.
something else.
Right.
And
You
they just
kept
kind of
working.
they just kind of got out
Hmm.
and we
Hmm.
kept making cold calls to
Hmm.
people and to sellers, and we kept
Hmm.
just our
Hmm.
normal process. And we actually gained and took market share
Hmm.
during COVID where other people
Hmm.
didn't, because everybody else was like,
Hmm.
well, nobody's going to be buying, so we're going to get
Hmm.
out. And we're like, no,
Hmm.
there's still plenty of
Hmm.
money out there that wants to
Right.
buy stuff.
Right.
So
Well, if anything, maybe even more,
yeah,
because people were thinking, okay, we need to diversify. We need to
yeah,
change what we're doing. And I love that you mentioned healthcare in Nashville because it is not something people think of. Obviously, Vanderbilt. is one of the big, and of course, they are, the
Yeah.
university, but, and then, that's where Danny Thomas started St. Jude's. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many different things that are there for healthcare. And it amazed me. So I was through there just a couple of weeks ago, and the new football stadium is
Mhm.
going up. And of course, that's going to be a huge thing. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm drawing a blank on the professional football team's name.
The
Um,
Titans. Yep.
yeah, the Titans, yes. And so anywhere where that they're doing things like building new stadiums and things,
Yeah.
clearly that is an up and coming area,
Yep.
because it is just something that there, the stadium looks, I mean, it's going to be nice. It looks
Yeah.
like it's about twice the size of what they had before.
Yeah. It's gonna
um
be really nice.
yeah, and it helps, it's right there next to the
Yeah.
interstate, so you can
Yeah.
see it. But yeah, when so it also is showing that Nashville itself is investing in the
Yeah.
future. You don't, I don't, I'm here in Atlanta, and when they built the Braves Stadium and Mercedes-Benz, those are billion-dollar projects.
Yeah.
And so when a city or county or whatever is making that investment, that means they really know
Yeah.
how much their area is going to be growing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talk about healthcare. So you
Mm-hmm.
have, HCA is headquartered here,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
DHS. So you
Mm-hmm.
have the three largest
Mm-hmm.
owners of hospitals
Right.
around the United
Mm-hmm.
States are
Mm-hmm.
all based out of here,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's why, you're talking about this. That's why Oracle
Mm-hmm.
is moving their
Mm-hmm.
world headquarters.
Right.
They
Mm-hmm.
moved it out of Silicon
Mm-hmm.
Valley, went to Austin. Now they're
Mm-hmm.
moving it from Austin to
Mm-hmm.
Nashville
Mm-hmm.
because they have such a heavy
Mm-hmm.
presence in medical and
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much,
Right.
the
Oracle does a
healthcare
lot
industry.
with, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that's bringing,
Mm-hmm.
12,000 jobs here.
Mm-hmm.
You have
Mm-hmm.
Nashville Yards, which is
Mm-hmm.
basically it's almost like a second or third, whatever you want to
Mm-hmm.
call headquarters for,
Mm-hmm.
for Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
that's moved in here.
Mm-hmm.
You have Alliance Bernstein, which is a Wall Street
Mm-hmm.
company, so that whole financial services
Mm-hmm.
industry has grown big time.
Right.
The tech stuff,
Mm-hmm.
obviously with Oracle and Google and a few
Mm-hmm.
other things that have come into here. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it continues to
Right.
you know to grow,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, them building the
Mm-hmm.
new stadium, it's new stadium is going to be spectacular,
Mm-hmm.
but that what that's going to do is because it will have the retractable roof.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Oh
it
yeah,
will
you can have games there in January, like the Super Bowl.
exactly Super Bowl, you'll be able
Mm-hmm.
to have like the NCAA
Mm-hmm.
basketball,
Mm-hmm.
Final Four
Right.
tournament,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to bring in so
Mm-hmm.
much more as far
Right.
as if
Mm-hmm.
not like we don't have
Mm-hmm.
enough tourism already, but
Mm-hmm. Well, and of course, there's all the things that go with it. You
uh-huh.
start having those, then have to have hotels, you have to have
Yep.
restaurants, all of those things. You bring in a company like Oracle. Well, there's all the organizations and companies that
Mhm.
support Oracle.
Yep.
And same with Amazon, all of those. Now,
Well,
am I correct that Tennessee does not have sales tax?
correct. There's
Okay. Which
those,
that's another draw. And yeah, folks, don't get
yeah,
you're still paying tax, right? You're still paying tax
yeah,
on goods and things.
yeah. No,
But it's
no,
just a different way that it's going. But yeah, no personal sales tax. Ooh.
yeah, no state income
Mm-hmm.
tax.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about that is written into the state of Tennessee Constitution.
Ah.
And so it would take a changing of the
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee state
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
constitution in order for them to ever change.
Right.
So the
Mm-hmm.
likelihood of that ever changing
Mm-hmm.
is, like
Right.
slim to none.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
From that. So yeah, that's a big draw
Mm-hmm.
for,
Mm-hmm.
people that come here.
Mm-hmm.
It is no state
Mm-hmm.
income tax,
Mm-hmm.
great schools. You have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of top, high schools
Right.
and,
Mm-hmm.
for kids. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's nine or
Couple
10,
major universities.
yeah, there's 9 or 10 universities around here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Right. And one of the things that I like about Tennessee is it is very diverse.
Yeah.
There's a lot of agriculture. There's obviously, the things like higher ed and all of that. And so it appeals to so many different individuals and companies.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's like In and Out is moving their headquarters from California to here,
Oh, so I mean,
right?
I'm gonna have an In and Out down here. I might have to drive to Nashville just to go to In and
Yeah.
Out.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah, they've already started on the first one, but they're
mhm,
moving their
mhm.
headquarters out of California to here.
I
So,
love it. I love
yeah.
it. Well, and there are lots of reasons why companies move, and let's
Yeah.
be honest, some of them are political, and so those tend to change.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is very amazing, when we go through there, and Franklin, which is not too far
Yeah.
south of Nashville, is one of the places where we've thought about retiring to.
Yeah.
And part of that is because Nashville itself has so many things that we would need.
Yeah.
Whether it's healthcare. Now, I don't know that I'd become a Titans fan, but I might go when they play the Broncos, right? Um, and so, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just, but yeah, it's the as we were saying, the state and then the various entities in it are making huge investments on bringing people in. And I think part of that is because people want out of, and maybe this was started because of COVID, they want out of the major metropolitan areas. Whether it's New York, whether it's LA, even Atlanta, Chicago, they want to go to a smaller area, but they still need and want those amenities.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. And we've definitely seen that,
Mm-hmm.
obviously coming from a lot of other
Mm-hmm.
states, but
Mm-hmm.
even just within, there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people that maybe live downtown or
Mm-hmm.
a little closer.
Mm-hmm.
Now COVID and everything else
Mm-hmm.
hit. And now they're like, now we want to buy, some property with a
Right.
couple of acres and a
Mm-hmm.
house, move kind of out of way,
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so not only did it draw people from other states, but
Mm-hmm.
then even the people
Mm-hmm.
here, were like, no,
Right.
we want to get out a little
Mm-hmm.
bit.
Right.
So, yeah.
And you've got the opposite too, where people went, "Oh, I want in." And a part of it is kind of the generational thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's like we said, there are so many different opportunities.
Yep. Exactly.
So now you work with people who want to invest in commercial real estate. And my guess is one of the first questions that you get is, Brian, I don't have that much money. Because they're assuming it takes millions, right?
Yep.
What do and I mean, you're talking about people who are retiring and things like that, and need to be able to invest. So I know we can't say it takes a minimum of, because those things change, but is it a good way for people who are kind of middle income type of folks to be able to earn more money?
It definitely is. Definitely is. Real estate's one of the best investments there is out there. And I'm glad you brought up that
Mhm.
point because I think a lot of people are thinking, oh, well, you have to be the ultra
Right. I don't want
wealthy
to
to get.
buy a huge
Yeah,
building.
yeah, or they think they're we got
Mhm.
to be the
Mhm.
ultra wealthy in order to buy real
Mhm.
estate when that's not the case.
Mhm.
And that's and so we do a learning series and it's
Mhm.
called Accelerate to Generational Wealth, right?
Ah.
So
Mhm.
but it's all about helping educate our clients
Mhm.
and the community
Mhm.
of how you can get into investing
Mhm.
in real estate
Mhm.
without, needing
Mhm.
millions of dollars,
Mhm.
right? And so we help them, we show them
Mhm.
opportunities where they can get in, they can be, in a partnership, they
Mhm.
can be part of what's called a syndication. So,
Mhm.
that somebody will sometimes people come to me and they're like, yeah, I have $100,000 to invest. What do you
Mhm.
recommend? Right. And
Mhm.
so there's syndications where they can
Mhm.
put their money in and they
Mhm.
get, they get a dividend out
Mhm.
paid out to them
It's like
monthly.
investing in the stock
Right.
market
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But then at the end, when that property is sold, then
Mhm.
they get a pretty
Right. They
good
get a
nice
chunk.
chunk, right?
Mhm.
And so, but two, then, we help them get access to deals that they would
Mhm.
never have a chance to get
Mhm.
access to.
Mhm.
We also help them find lending that they
Mhm.
probably would
Mhm.
never know
Right.
about, heard about
Mhm.
anything about. So we
Mhm.
help them, through that
Mhm.
process. Um, and this point is, people will ask me, they're like, Brian, so what makes you excited every day to go to work?
Right.
Right. And I said, you know what? And a lot of people are like, oh, it's probably because of the money. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
actually, it's not
Mm-hmm.
because of the money. I said, what excites me every day is to work with those first time investors,
Mm-hmm.
to basically sit them down, go through,
Mm-hmm.
walk through, put them on a
Mm-hmm.
plan that I can take them from their first investment
Mm-hmm.
to within 6 to 8 years. They will have enough passive income that then they can live what I call a life by design,
Mm-hmm.
meaning they will have enough
Mm-hmm.
passive income coming in, they can do whatever they want.
Right.
Right? And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have a couple that I first started
Mm-hmm.
helping after a couple of transactions. They ended up renting their house in Nashville. They bought a fifth wheel dually truck,
Mm-hmm.
big trailer. They loaded their two kids and
Mm-hmm.
their couple of dogs, and they've spent like the last 2 years
I love it.
traveling
Mm-hmm.
the country. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like, that may not be what I would do, but
Mm-hmm.
that's what they've chosen to do, and
Mm-hmm.
I can still help them while they're out.
Right.
But
Mm-hmm.
the point is
Mm-hmm.
that, he quit his job,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
they live just fine, let me tell
Right.
you.
Right.
And I
Mm-hmm.
still help them, but
Mm-hmm.
I can put them on that plan so
Mm-hmm.
that, within that six
Mm-hmm.
to eight years, they can live
Mm-hmm.
a life by whatever they
Mm-hmm.
want to design it to be.
Right.
Right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, it's
Mm-hmm.
just walking them through and helping them
Mm-hmm.
understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's what gets me up
Mm-hmm.
every day to go do what I do,
Mm-hmm.
is to help people,
Mm-hmm.
first time
Mm-hmm.
investors, and get them on a
Mm-hmm.
plan because I'm all about,
Mm-hmm.
wanting to help them
Mm-hmm.
create that generational wealth
Mm-hmm.
that they can pass down to their
Right.
kids or
Mm-hmm.
their kids or kids or
Mm-hmm.
their charities or their
Mm-hmm.
nonprofits like you
Mm-hmm.
work with, things like that,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, they
Mm-hmm.
choose to do.
Mm-hmm.
But to
Right.
just see them grow,
Mm-hmm. I
that's
love that. I love that.
yeah.
Well, let's talk multifamily. So, how many units consist of multifamily? And then, of course, obviously, it's the sky
Yeah.
is the limit. But is a duplex considered multifamily?
It
Technically, I suppose it would be. Hmm.
technically, yeah. So really, 5 units and up is
Okay.
really, but 5 units and
Hmm.
up, what that means is then they have to get a commercial loan, right?
Okay. Right.
So a
Hmm.
lot of people look at multifamily as 5 units and
Hmm.
up, but
Okay.
really a duplex,
Hmm.
triplex, a
Hmm.
quad four
Hmm.
unit, that's
Hmm.
all, that's all where
Right.
people, get a
Hmm.
start. And
Hmm.
so, kind of when I was talking about helping people get started, sometimes they'll come to me and they'll say, yeah, we own a couple of rentals, but
Hmm.
we're realizing in order for us to really grow and scale, we
Hmm.
need to buy larger stuff,
Hmm.
right? And so,
Right.
then I will say, okay, let's sit down, let's talk about
Hmm.
where you are, what you got.
Hmm.
And then we'll say, and then
Hmm.
sometimes it's like, okay, you know what? You're doing this with these
Hmm.
properties. You can do a cash out refi.
Hmm.
You can take that money and you can buy
Hmm.
a 5 unit,
Hmm.
right? And then what they do is they
Hmm.
just do a cash out refi
Right.
and they'll buy,
Hmm.
10, or maybe they'll
Hmm.
sell the five and then they'll
Hmm.
buy a 20 unit, right?
Right. Right.
So it's just getting them started.
Hmm.
Because there's for some reason there's this fear of, oh man, I don't know if I could deal with,
Hmm.
20 units. And I'm
Right.
like, you have a 20 unit apartment complex,
Hmm.
but you have 20 single family homes. That means you have 20 roofs to worry about.
Right. Yeah. I'd
Then
rather have
you
one building that I'm worrying
Exactly, where you
about.
only have to worry
Hmm.
about one roof.
Right.
So,
Hmm.
it's just
Hmm.
helping them
Hmm.
shift their
Right.
mindset,
Hmm.
a little
Hmm.
bit and then get them,
Hmm.
them started.
Hmm.
And I always warn them, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get you investing
Hmm.
and I'm going to warn you because you're going to get addicted.
Right. You're going to think,
You're going to get
ooh,
addicted
we
because
yeah, we
now,
need another one. Hmm.
right, yeah, now you're
Hmm.
going to say, oh man,
Hmm.
the income
Right.
this can generate.
Hmm.
And then, I said,
Hmm.
you're going to get addicted
Hmm.
and you're going to want to
Right.
you're going to want to figure
hmm
out how you can
hmm
get to that next
Right.
one and the
Right.
next one and the
hmm
next one. And,
hmm
and I said, you just gradually, scale up. And they're like,
hmm
yeah, I know somebody that owns, 2,000
hmm
units. And I said,
hmm
well, if you ask them where they got started.
hmm And it
They
was
probably got,
probably a 10 or a 5,
yeah,
right?
they got started just
hmm
like we're starting
hmm
you, you
hmm
know,
Right.
the majority of
hmm
people started the exact same
hmm
way,
Right.
and so, yeah, so, but multifamily, you can do, once you buy it, you can do
hmm
what they call cost segregation,
mm
which saves you a ton of
hmm
tax money. Um, and
hmm
that's another
hmm
story that would take another
Right.
hour to try
Right.
to
hmm
describe, but it's
hmm
what's called,
hmm
cost segregation. It
hmm
basically helps you, so you don't pay near the
hmm
taxes.
hmm
And then, and then you have forced depreciation,
hmm
which means you can continue to, move
hmm
rents, right?
Right. hmm
And so, I'll have a lot of people who are like, they're like, oh man, people don't pay these taxes. And I'm like, well, and they're talking about people that this is somebody that doesn't own real estate will
hmm
say, well, this person owns real estate, man, they don't pay any taxes. And I'm like, yeah, there's a reason why
Right.
they own this
There's
real
a
estate.
legal reason.
Yeah, yeah.
hmm
There's a reason
hmm
why they
hmm
don't, they don't pay taxes
hmm
because of real estate's one of the
hmm
best ways
Right. hmm
to best purchase you
hmm
can have to help you
hmm
offset, any kind of
hmm
tax burden,
Right.
you have.
Right.
And so yeah,
hmm
it's again, it's just an
hmm
education
Right.
process.
Right. Well, and as part of that, it's also important that, you know, so you buy a 10 unit or 1,000 unit or
Yeah.
whatever, then you get a very good property management company, right? You're not the one who's going in at 2 o'clock in the morning and fixing the dishwasher.
Yeah.
And I mean, that really is the important thing. But when we look at, Nashville, Atlanta, all of these places, just to see how things are growing. And our population is growing. Our population is not going down. People are having babies, and those babies are having babies. And they have to live somewhere. Now, obviously, a lot want to live in single family, but we've got a development that's 5 minutes from us. I've never actually looked, and I need to just out of curiosity. My guess is it's 1,000 apartments. I mean, it's
Yeah.
big, and when we first thought about it, it was like, ooh, traffic. Well,
Mhm.
Atlanta traffic is Atlanta traffic. That's not, it's not
Yeah. Yeah.
really going to make that much difference. But then we also thought, oh, look at what it's going. Again, it's what we were
Yeah.
saying, like with the football stadium.
Yeah.
The restaurants that have been going in are much better restaurants. We're getting much better. The whole area is seeing the benefit of those big, complexes. Is it going to make more traffic? Well, yeah, it's probably a quarter occupied, maybe. I'm not sure. And I haven't seen a change in traffic at all, just because Atlanta traffic's horrible. But yeah, there's an Olive Garden, there's all sorts of brand new restaurants that are going in because hell, you got to feed those people.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's an opportunity for people to know, hey, here's what's going on.
Yeah. Well, and too, a lot of those big complexes like that,
Mhm.
they have about every amenity
Right.
the tenants need. And so
hmm
you're talking about traffic,
hmm
unless they run to the grocery store or
Right.
something like that,
hmm
you know,
hmm
they're not leaving out of there,
Right.
right?
Right. hmm
Because, they have a gym, they
hmm
have a
hmm
salon, they
hmm
have,
And
they
maybe
have a
they get their
dog.
food delivered. So they're,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a
hmm
dog park, they have
hmm
whatever, right? And so there's so
hmm
many amenities.
hmm
So yeah, it's a
hmm
very good point.
Right.
Some
hmm
communities getting in an uproar
hmm
about, oh, we don't want that
hmm
much density and,
hmm
traffic and
hmm
everything else, but they don't realize
hmm
that, you know, it doesn't cause that
hmm
much more traffic
Right. Right.
because they're pretty
hmm
self-contained.
hmm Right. And it's interesting to see now when they start really doing a lot of mixed use.
Mhm.
I'm half hour from what, I still call it the new Brave Stadium, although, it's been open now for quite a while. but everything that went
Yeah.
with that whole thing, all the restaurants, the hotels, the
Mhm.
apartments, all of that, I know people who live in and they never leave.
Yeah.
They because they work remotely. Everything they need is right there.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like we've gone back to creating small cities, small towns, right?
Mhm.
Where you never really went, and there's doctors there, there's everything they need for the most part. Now, if
Yeah.
they need something big like a hospital or something like that, then they do have to travel. But, and so again, that comes back to, it didn't increase traffic because they're not leaving. Every single thing they need is walkable.
Yeah.
And I love that idea.
Yeah. Like you say, it's this mixed use
Mhm.
is, that's
Mhm.
what you're seeing, right?
Right.
You're seeing a lot of that, and
Mhm.
sometimes it comes with a Publix or a
Mhm.
Kroger's or something
Mhm.
like in there. And
Mhm.
then you have the office,
Mhm.
you have office space, and then you
Mhm.
have the retail, and then you
Right.
have, maybe you'll have
Mhm.
300
Mhm.
apartments,
Mhm.
but again, it's all self-contained,
Mhm.
They can walk to get
Mhm.
their, food, they can
Mhm.
walk to get, their
Mhm.
groceries, they can walk to go to
Mhm.
dinner, they can walk to the dentist office
Mhm.
or the doctor's office. I mean,
Mhm.
they're self-contained, so they're
Mhm.
not going anywhere. And
Right.
so this mindset
Mhm.
that, some people get into about, oh man, look at the
Mhm.
traffic and look at all the
Mhm.
problems it's going to cause and this and that. And it's like, no, they're
Mhm.
all pretty much
Mhm.
self-contained in there
Right.
now. Yeah,
Right.
right. And like you say,
Mhm.
if they work
Mhm.
remotely, they're
Mhm.
really not going
Right.
anywhere.
Right. Well, and we've had that forever, right? I mean, how many people do we know who live, especially in, say, New York City or downtown Chicago? They don't even
Yeah,
own cars,
exactly.
because for one thing, it's a cost, so
Yeah,
you've got the cost of the car, but then you also
yeah,
have the garage, and all of those various things. And the key is great public transportation, right? So they're
yeah,
able to go wherever they need to go with, and then there's things like Uber, right? Or you rent a car. And so I think that's, that for folks who are fussing about this, it's been here forever. And so that is the thing. And
hmm
and I love that we're kind of getting back to that. But they're making them neighborhoods, right? It's not just, hey, we're going to put in a bunch of stuff. It's, we're going to make this a neighborhood again.
yeah. You're correct.
I love it. I
So,
love it. Well, oh my gosh, we've only got about 5-10 minutes left. For somebody who's thinking this is something I'm interested in, what are some of the things that they need to initially be thinking about? And obviously, they have to have disposable income, but
yeah.
if they've decided I've got enough funds and I want to make this investment, what are the next steps?
Well, one of the biggest things is they need to get a hold of a broker,
Okay.
somebody, somebody like ourselves
Mm-hmm.
that can kind of help them talk through,
Mm-hmm.
the different risk associated
Mm-hmm.
with investing. Then, they would need to visit with, if they have a good lender. If not, we can give them a lender or
Mm-hmm.
two, just that way they can kind of see what they could qualify
Mm-hmm.
for, money wise, and then then we can talk about it. But
Mm-hmm.
even if they just have 50,000 they want
Mm-hmm.
to invest it, then there's, like you say, there's
Mm-hmm.
syndications that
Mm-hmm.
we can steer them to,
Mm-hmm.
that creates
Mm-hmm.
monthly revenue for
Mm-hmm.
them. And so there's, but it kind of gets them in the game. They can
Mm-hmm.
learn why that investment, and some
Mm-hmm.
of those investments can just be 6, 8 months, right? And
Right. Mm-hmm.
maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
what they need to
Mm-hmm.
do to learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
From there, but we can just talk about all their different
Mm-hmm.
options, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
think, again, I go back, I think so many people think, oh, I've got to have, I got to have $1 million
Mm-hmm.
to be able
Right.
to,
Or
invest in
my
real
money's going
estate
to
or
be tied up for 20 years.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's what I'm saying. We can go over all
Mm-hmm.
the options
Mm-hmm.
and show them it's not near as
Mm-hmm.
scary as
Mm-hmm.
as it's maybe painted out to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd just say get with a good broker, especially
Hmm.
those that are, that are relational,
Hmm.
that aren't just looking for
Right.
transaction,
Hmm.
that are relational, that want to spend the time with
Hmm.
you, and, go over your options, show
Hmm.
you how to do it, and get started. Because that
Hmm.
unfortunately there are some brokers that are like, oh, if you don't have $1 million, it's going to be a
Right.
waste of my
Well,
time.
that's their niche,
Yeah,
and more power to them. Hmm.
yeah, and so it's just like, get with somebody
Hmm.
that's all about building a long-term
Hmm.
relationship with you and helping you,
Hmm.
invest your money over
Hmm.
time.
Right. I love it. Well, if someone is going, okay, this sounds really good, and I'd like to work with Brian, how do
Yeah.
they find you? And give us a little bit more information about the services that you provide.
Okay. Yeah, so we are a full service, real estate
Hmm.
brokerage. So we work in all segments of commercial real estate.
Okay.
We have agents who are experts
Hmm.
in each one of
Hmm.
those. And then we also have our business brokerage. So we
Hmm.
help people, buy and sell
Hmm.
their businesses,
Hmm.
right? And so some people are, getting out of corporate America and
Hmm.
they're like, okay, what do I do? And
Right. I
you
want to
know,
own a car wash.
yeah, I'm tired of, or they're tired of helping
Hmm.
somebody else make
Hmm.
millions.
Right.
They want to
Right.
make money for
Hmm.
themselves and own their own business. And
Hmm.
so, we can help them, do that,
Hmm.
navigate that as well, from there. So, we have, we have, so the motto of our company and
Hmm.
all of our educational meetings that we
Hmm.
hold, and I love how you have nonprofits and
Hmm.
things that you're associated with, is we do an educational event every month,
Hmm.
and it's that it's what I'd mentioned earlier, that
Hmm.
accelerate to generational
Hmm.
wealth.
Hmm.
But we always have a nonprofit or a charity
Ah.
that we have and come and
Hmm.
speak at the very beginning. So
Okay.
that our investors that are
Hmm.
there can go, okay, if I want to help somebody else,
Hmm.
I can.
Hmm.
But why I mention that is because if you came to one of our events, I could probably, because we have a lot of regulars,
Hmm.
I could ask some of the regulars, I was
Hmm.
like, okay, so what is our motto, right? And
Hmm.
because we say it at the very beginning and at the
Hmm.
very end, so they know it. But we tell them we're here to help you increase your standard of living so you can increase your standard of giving,
Ah.
right? So as a company,
Hmm.
we give to charity. We
Hmm.
go out and volunteer,
Hmm.
once a quarter as
Hmm.
well. So being involved in the community,
Hmm.
we let people know that on
Hmm.
the front end when we
Hmm.
bring agents on,
Hmm.
that they have to have that mindset.
Hmm.
If not, they're probably not a
Hmm.
good fit,
Right.
to
Hmm.
be here.
Hmm.
But it's just we're here to help
Hmm.
people, increase their standard of
Hmm.
living so they can increase their
Hmm.
standard of giving.
Right. I love that. And we will have a link to your LinkedIn profile in our
Yeah,
show notes, as well as a link to SVN
yeah,
Excel. And
yeah,
folks, all you have to do, there's a button there that says events.
yeah,
And and there are several listed, and and that's what I like, is you're about providing education.
yeah,
And that really is the whole key to this, is when we're better educated, then we'll make better decisions.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not afraid to share my phone number.
Hmm.
So it's 615-260-2121.
I love it.
And if anybody wants to test
Hmm.
me and call me tomorrow on Saturday,
Hmm.
and I'll answer,
Hmm.
from there. And then my email address is Brian, Brian
Hmm.
dot Truman, Truman at SVN, Sarah Victor Nancy
Hmm.
dot com.
I love it.
My email
Very
address.
cool. Hmm. It's
So,
so much fun. Well,
yeah,
I've definitely learned, and and I think it's great. And the next time I'm going through the Nashville area, we've got to have coffee. And
yeah,
I'm up through there several times a year, so
yeah,
we will
yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
But do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
I would just say start early and start often investing in commercial real estate. That's the big thing. I wish I would have started when I was much younger, and I just tell them start early and often. and buy often. Just get started. The old saying, when's the best day to, purchase real estate? Yesterday. What's the next best time? Today. Let us help you create, generational wealth.
I love it. Well, I'm Deb Creer. I've been having so much fun getting to know Brian Truman. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.